Over the past 16 years, Tanki Online has changed more times than you can count with weird updates, crazy events, and hidden details. Today, I'm going to be sharing some of the most strangest, most useless facts about the game you probably didn't even know existed. Welcome to 6 minutes of totally useless information about Tanki Online. Now, just before I do start this video, do consider subscribing because that kind of motivates me to continue making content like this, and also don't forget to join the Discord in the video description down below. Tanki Online originally ran entirely on the Flash using the Alternativa 3D engine, which at the time was considered groundbreaking for browser-based 3D graphics. Players often struggled with lags and browser crashes, but it became a part of the game's charm. The eventual move to HTML5 in 2021 marked the end of an era for Tanki Online veterans. Capture the Flag was introduced on July 31st, 2009, becoming one of the first team-based modes in Tanki Online. At launch, it had no balancing system whatsoever, which meant entire clans would pile up in one team and crush the other. This made matches both frustrating and hilarious depending on which side you ended up on. Daily missions, which now feel like a standard part of Tanki, weren't added until 2015. Before that, players had no structured tasks. They simply logged in, joined battles, and earned crystals from performance alone. The arrival of missions gave players new goals, rewards, and reasons to continue playing the game every single day. Containers, one of the most important features today, were added on the Black Friday in 2017. They completely transformed how rewards were distributed, introduced an element of randomness that kept players hooked. Instead of buying everything with crystals, players now had a chance to score a rare paint skin and gear through lucky container openings. A common myth says that the very first drone was called Supply, but that's not true. The first drones didn't add new items, they simply automated the use of existing supplies like double damage and repair. While controversial at first, drones quickly became an essential part of the game's strategy. Pro battles were one of the most exciting features for competitive players. You needed a special paid pass to curate them, but allowed custom rules, unique setups, and more control over the match. Eventually, this feature was phased out when matchmaking replaced the old system. Juggernaut mode didn't appear until 2019, which might surprise new players. In this mode, one tank becomes the most powerful super weapon that the rest of the lobby must work together to defeat. Before this, Tanki only had simple modes like Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, and later Control Points. Also, quick note from the future, Juggernaut was later changed to Team Juggernaut. XD skins, which are now mostly locked inside containers, were originally sold directly for crystals. This meant players could grind through battles and save up for them instead of relying on luck. Many longtime players still brag about the fact that they bought their XDs the old-fashioned way. Among all the XD skins, Railgun XD stood out as the true symbol of Tanki Online. If you had one, another player instantly knew that you were a veteran who had either invested heavily into the game or grinded for months. It quickly became one of the most recognizable cosmetic items in Tanki Online. Some of Tanki's beloved maps like Silence were removed, reworked, and even restored multiple times throughout the years. Developers often experimented with map designs when the players missed the classics. Many were brought back. Silence even received a special version like Moon Silence during events. The Hornet hull was once the fastest in the game, making it the favorite for capturing the flags and quick maneuvers, but its lightweight design came with a cost. Even a small bump could send it flipping upside down. This gave Hornet a reputation as both fun and frustrating. Parkour wasn't originally an official game mode, it was a player-created minigame. Fans of Tanki would ignore objectives, drive around the map, and attempt to climb onto buildings or impossible spots. Over time, parkour became so popular that it developed its own dedicated community. Back in the Flash era of the game struggled with heavy effects. If too many mines exploded at the same time, the client could slow to a crawl or even crash completely. This became a running joke among earlier players who knew to avoid chain reactions at all costs. Smart supplies, which automatically trigger items when needed, were a later addition to the game. Originally, players had to track down cooldowns and manage every supply themselves, which made timing a crucial skill. This old-school supply management separated casuals from experienced players. Back in the early days of Tanki Online, the scoreboard looked very different from what we know now. It didn't show kill-to-death ratios or advanced stats, just raw score based on the battle performance. Players had to judge skill between watching gameplay rather than checking a detailed board. Matchmaking is something modern players take for granted, but it wasn't added until 2017. Back then, every player had to scroll through a huge list of active battles and manually choose one to join. It made finding a fair match harder, but it also gave more freedom in choosing your experience. When Freeze was first introduced, its range was way more shorter than it was today. Instead of being a versatile turret, it was more of a short-range hazard, effective only if you could sneak up right behind your opponents. Balance changes later made it one of the most disruptive weapons in Tanki Online. Chef's iconic sniper mode wasn't always as smooth as it is today. In the early days, you couldn't freely move the camera while zoomed in, which made aiming at moving targets extremely awkward. This restriction was eventually lifted, turning Chef into a true long-range powerhouse. The Battlefront system was the original way crystals were distributed at the end of the match. The more kills and captures that happened, the bigger the fun would grow, giving players more rewards. Eventually, this system was retired in favor of a new payout mechanic. Supplies like double damage, double armor, and speed boost once had fixed crystal prices. Over time, these prices were adjusted as Tanki's economy shifted. But early players can remember the exact crystal amounts they used to spend. It made supplies feel more like an investment than just a quick power-up. The friends list wasn't always as smooth and reliable. In early Tanki, it was clunky, often buggy, and sometimes failed to update when friends were online. Modern social features have greatly improved the multiplayer experience. Riot Paint was special because it came directly from a community contest. For the first time, players creatively became a permanent part of the game's cosmetics. It was a huge moment for the fans who wanted to leave their mark on Tanki. Railgun once had a notorious bug where it was powerful shot could actually penetrate walls on certain maps. This completely broke the balance of matches and led to chaos as players were sniping through cover. This glitch was eventually patched, but not before becoming a legendary memory. For a while, Tanki had a complete separate mobile version known as Tanki Mobile. It was eventually discontinued as the developers moved toward a unified HTML5 version that worked across all devices. This decision made cross-platforming much more smoother. At one point, Tanki Online experimented with time-based crystal multipliers. If you logged in at a time where there were peak hours, you could possibly earn double rewards compared to the normal times. This encouraged players to play more often, but it didn't last long as a permanent feature. And that wraps up my video for the 6 minutes of useless information about Tanki Online. If you guys want a part 2, do mention in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this series, I'll maybe continue this series a little bit longer. But anyways, I'll see you guys all in another one. Peace.